We are here with Kimberly Unger, who is a science fiction author, wears many hats, but is representing Oculus, the creator of the main VR headset right now. And her responsibility inside Oculus is for everything non-gaming. So everything related to the stuff that we're into as biohackers and everything, that's her domain. And she's seeing and deeply involved with all of the creators who are creating the content for this new revolution, which is happening right now. So was that an appropriate introduction for you?
Yeah, I think that sums it up very nicely. Okay,
so the main idea behind this talk is to share with our audience the latest things from the front that you're seeing before they've even come out into the public. Now, there's not going to be any confidential stuff, but I'm sure you're allowed to share some things. So what amazing things are you coming across in your journeys at the moment?
So there's a lot of interesting applications that are popping up, particularly with productivity and particularly with work in virtual reality. Virtual reality gives you the ability to have infinite space in a world where you may not have any space. If you're working in your apartment, if you're working in your closet under the stairs, right? Wherever you happen to have ended up working from home, VR can give you as large an office as you need to be comfortable and to be able to focus without having to feel like you're trapped quite so much. And it's been surfacing a lot of very, very interesting ideas as to how sort of the 6 degrees of freedom we have on the Quest can enable you to be more productive and to be more efficient with your space without it sort of splashing all over your living room.
Yeah, and I'd like to illustrate what Kimberly means by that, because when you put this on, even if you're in a 2 foot by 2 foot, enclosed cubicle, as soon as you put this on, through these lenses, you are literally in a world of infinite depth and horizon. So that's what, is that what you're referring to?
Absolutely. Absolutely. As an example, many engineers I know will have a multi-screen setup at their workplace when they're at work. 2 screens, 3 screens, 4 screens. It makes them much more productive, much more efficient. In virtual reality, we can go further than that. We have applications coming to the Quest over the next month or so that will let you do 5 screens, 6 screens, 7 screens, all easily within reach. And all without having to buy a bigger desk.
Yeah, and so that capability emerges from having your vision completely enclosed, and then you can throw up any kind of object that you want. So we're still looking at the screen paradigm. So you can have your multiple screens in something. You could be on a plane and do almost on a plane. Maybe not with that particular case, unless you have your laptop there, but okay, so that's one. So you can replace your current environment with a massive Minority Report style workspace, and that there is the 2D metaphor translated into 3D. What about real 3D? What's going on?
It's interesting because we are at this point right now where people are learning to go from 2D workspaces into full 3D volumetric workspaces. One of my favorite places that I see this right now is stuff like mind mapping software. Products that allow you to brainstorm essentially in full 3D. You can you can place ideas, you can connect them together, and you don't have to be limited by sort of our traditional workspace. And it's we have people out there who are kinesthetic learners. It is a known thing that some people work better by getting up and moving around and not having to sit still. It maps differently in your brain in many cases. If you're working in full 3D, whether you're working in 2D or working on a flat screen. So being able to use 3D to take advantage of those human capabilities of the way that our brain works to to lock information in more completely, to allow you to explore information in a way you might not thought of before, is, it's a huge opportunity for sort of the future of work. And as an example, for example, I'm trained as an artist. At one point, I was an art student. One of the things you do if you have a painting or if you have an illustration that's not quite working right, you turn it upside down and you take a look at it. And that'll tell you where the weight is, where the eye goes, right? What are the structural issues that you have? And then you can turn it back again. And that's the kind of perceptual change we're seeing right now between 2D and 3D. 3D allows you to give a completely different perspective on a problem, a completely different perspective on an idea, which can allow for more effective problem solving.
Beautiful. Okay, and that there, Kimberly's referred to a particular mind mapping application, which I'm involved in. And we have also recorded, because it's one thing to talk about it and have this abstract idea, but what we've done is we've recorded an actual session inside the VR. So we're going to obviously refer to that, and it's really, really profound. Me being a mind mapper, I think that mind mapping is one of the ultimate note-taking hacks, in existence. And it's one thing to be able to go into this 3D space and be surrounded by your ideas and see how they, structure them, design them, create them in that way. That's level one. But equally as profound and powerful is when you bring someone else into that space, and now you're both in that shared experience and everything like that. And that there is really as mind-blowing as VR is. As soon as it becomes a social activity and a community building activity and that kind of thing, what are you seeing in terms of the social dimension of VR?
So VR is a surprisingly social space. The difference between working in VR versus working with a bunch of people on video chat is enormous. Even in its current state, and in VR right now, at this instant in time, although it's not going to be that way for too much longer, I anticipate. At this instant in time, where we just have avatars that do basic video game style lip sync and some hand movement and everything, the difference in communication is huge. Just being able to tell where somebody's looking, being able to watch their body action, even if it's not super precise, even if it's not super subtle, gives you a sense of presence the way that working on a flat screen does not. Even if you're an MMO player, right? The difference between a virtual avatar, which is driven by body motion, and a game avatar or a flat 2D avatar is significant. You can tell when an avatar is being driven by a live human versus when they're being driven by a sequence of canned animations or even mocapped animations. Mm-hmm. Although the artist in me would like to say, mocapped animations feel more real than traditional animations. But we're seeing more and more people finding ways to be social in VR and conducting business socially in VR through a wide range of apps that maybe were not originally intended for business, but are finding business use cases. And, apps that are coming to the market that are designed to give you a professional business avatar and a professional business presence. So I think that social aspect of live people meeting with live people outcomes of the meeting versus VC outcomes or video chat outcomes of the meeting is a huge point for VR going forward. It just makes a difference when you're both standing over the same table, brainstorming and talking and throwing out ideas versus when you're trying to do it over a video feed. Absolutely,
or a chat, or a Slack, etc.
Yep.
Now let's go to a specific case. This one's public. It's a software called Spatial. And inside, you can go into this default spatial room, which is overlooking a Swiss lake with like some really awesome interior design and architecture. So I plop in, Kimberly plops in when she joins. Okay, we have these avatars that can be customized with your face and everything. I didn't do that for my one. My one was just default colors, right? But then you have this this kind of screen or this 2D space that you can throw a PDF onto, or a slide, or an image, and I thought that was pretty amazing. Then I did the search. I want to get your opinion on this as a science fiction person as well, because I did a search, and I searched, cat, and then all of a sudden a 3D model of a cat just appeared there, and it was just like rotating like this. And then I was like, oh no, I don't like that cat. I'm going to press the next cat, and I press next, and then another different cat model came up. Yeah. Okay. And I haven't really figured out a use for that, but I thought it's one of the most amazing things I've seen. What is the actual application of that? How can we use things like that? What have you seen? So
one of the things that is very popular in meeting software is the ability to bring in 3D models. And you can use them to inform and build out a thought process. You can use them to make a space more comfortable, right? You can use them like desk toys, right? Give people something sort of to fiddle with while they're waiting for for a PDF to load, or while we're waiting for more people to come into the meeting. So, those kinds of objects give you a range of options, not just specific to your meeting, but specific to sort of the simulation of the real world.
Okay, so it could be like a stress toy. You take a little cat and you just play with it.
Yep.
While the thing is loading, or while someone's boring you.
No, well, exactly. Or if it helps you. You can use them to help set the tone of the space. For example, so if your meeting happens to be about a particular topic, you can, or if it's a casual meeting versus a business meeting, right? You can use those kinds of objects to help set that tone. Right. You can also use them to illustrate. I mean, much like Schrodinger did with his example of the cat, right? The man didn't actually take a cat and put it in a box. It was being used as a metaphor. Yeah. They can help you illuminate those kinds of thought experiments and sort of make them words that stay, or make them ideas that stay in the space. I mean, this is one of the advantages to working with 3D models for things like meetings and for things like events, is that you can use them to breadcrumb through a thought process, or you can use them to breadcrumb through an idea and have that remain a persistent idea in the space, so that whenever somebody goes and looks at it, they walk through those steps and they go, oh yeah, that's, this process. So it's not as simple a use as, hey, open up this 3D model and it lets you do X, Y, and Z. It's much more, I think, of its big value, I should say, is in the way that it helps people learn and the way that it helps people lock things into memory.
Okay, and so you're talking, I guess, about the memory palace, where you start to attach memory objects to hooks, which are in a spatial area. One thing that came, for that 3D object, back to the 3D object thing, because I think it's the closest thing to magic that many of us will ever see for now. So you obviously, if you're working on a product design or something, you bring in a 3D model of something and it's sitting there rotating. That's obvious. You can look at it and talk about it. The Mars rover, the leg is a bit long here or something. Then, like in terms of bringing in any object, you were saying you can use it to soften the moods, to be more playful, that kind of thing. I thought of another interesting idea just now, which was, using it for creativity exercises. Like, what if our problem was a sea animal, and then you bring up different sea animals or something.
Right. It gives you more range, right? I mean, the same reason we use PowerPoint, right now. You attach things to slides. You walk people through an idea. or the metaphor that people often use is when you hear hoofbeats, you look for horses, not unicorns, right? These types of things all have a visual counterpart. And we're just getting to a point where this is going to be a commonplace form of communication, right? Being able to back these ideas and back abstract concepts up with, 3D images, 3D objects. To the Mars rover idea, when you're working on, once upon a time when you were working on prototyping an object, right? You'd build the prototype, you'd bring it in, everybody would tear it apart, and then you'd go back and you'd build another prototype. And this was the kind of process that would cost you easily $500,000 before you even get to the development stage. Being able to work in 3D software has gotten us away from that very physical process, but being able to take that 3D software and that 3D process into a space that maps into your brain the same way the physical process once did changes the way that people can view what is still kind of an abstract product, right? So a 3D object displayed on a 2D screen, there's been a few steps there, right? So it is still an abstraction. Mm-hmm. But if we bring it into actual 3D, it will register for most people as an actual physical object. Mm-hmm. And it's easier to get your head around it. And it's easier to see the flaws. And it's easier to see modifications in a way that you might not be able to see on a flat 2D screen. So there's definitely places to run, with regards to working with 3D models in a virtual reality space.
Great. Yeah. Okay. So we've covered a couple of use cases. Now, one thing that people are really talking about a lot at the moment is this whole transition into digital. People moving on to Zoom meetings, work from home, etc. And I feel very strongly about meeting in VR and being connected and present with my friends. It's one thing to be talking to someone on a Zoom. It's another thing to be hanging out with them from the comfort of your own home.
Yep.
And so what are you seeing? So that right now the different options for that are between a few of the different chat services, VR chat, Alt Space, Rec Room. Facebook is going to release their one, Horizon, maybe this year. And what are you seeing in terms of like community and not even collaboration, but just like connecting?
One of the strengths of VR is the ability to connect with other people in a more real sense than you might otherwise have, like on a screen. When you have somebody on a 2D screen, it's easy to forget they're there. Or it's easy to forget that there's a live person on the other end, and that doesn't tend to happen as much with VR. One of the things that I've observed is that the boundary between work social and life social has thinned a bit, right? So you have, and it's not just in VR, although my preference is VR, but you see this this is popping up in MMOs, this is popping up even in like battle royale games. You're seeing people taking their work meetings or their work socialization into a more casual VR space with an idea towards that level of presence, right? Of feeling like you're in the same space together and feeling like you're live people all working in the same room. I think that, and I think the social apps are a huge draw for this. There are, as always, there are some people who don't fit as well in the more social chat environments. They're more comfortable conducting business in a business type environment, right?
Like a Zoom call?
Oh yeah, like a Zoom call, or even or just even a more professional semi-photoreal location, right? Mind space is important to people, right? This is why
in VR,
yeah.
Some people prefer to connect in a businessy setting, not in the Burning Man playa or something.
Exactly. And sometimes it's personal preference. Sometimes it's the way that they've set up the compartmentalization of their work life space and their life space.
Yeah.
These are all things that we will have to take into consideration going forward, right? It might be more fun to do your meeting in an MMO or to do it in a social app, but it might be better for the meeting if you're doing it in a more professionalized space. And let's be honest, it's all digital. So it's really about the skin, right? It's really about just the paint you've put on the environment to lens it one way or lens it the other way, to help set the level of professionalism and to help set the expectations of the members of the meeting. But in VR we can do all of that. We can make the meeting room look however we need it to look in order to get the best result out of the people in that meeting.
Beautiful. Okay, so let's transition over to a little bit of a topic which I think will be very valuable for the audience, which is the opportunity. Okay, many people right now are in kind of career shift modes, thinking about what they want to do, etc. I personally, my humble opinion, VR is a pretty good and fun bet. And area to invest in. So what would be the approach for someone wanting to get into it or consider it? Step one, buy a Oculus. It's $400. It starts at $400 US, so it's not unaffordable. What do you do after that? What's the sort of entrepreneurial path that you're seeing?
So we have a moment in time where the corporations are listening. Right, where we've been forced into a remote work situation that has everybody looking for their best options, right, the most effective options. So, if you've acquired a headset, if you are very interested in working in VR and you're working with a company who's listening, right, presenting them with cases, right, making the argument is always a good thing. I would go so far as to say this is a unique moment in time where we have the opportunity to feed back up the chain what the future of work is going to look like, right? What this workspace is going to be going forward. If you're looking to get into working in VR in a developer sense or in a app development sense, if you will. The applications categories right now they're sort of the blue ocean. There's a lot of opportunity there. There's a lot of problems there that haven't been solved yet in the way that they're already being tackled in things like games and entertainment. So if you're looking to get into VR as a profession, the sort of the applications categories, and at this moment, I cover 6 different categories, not just productivity, although productivity is currently obviously top of mind. But those spaces are going to be places where we don't have a ton of developers there yet. We don't have a ton of the problems solved there yet. So if you're entrepreneurial minded, pardon?
What are your categories?
So the categories I cover are productivity, fitness, travel, social. See, I always forget one or two.
Yeah.
Social,
health,
education. Health I put under fitness. And the reason I use the term fitness, talking about my categories, just as like a sidebar, is to me, fitness allows for the active engagement with the improvement. Mm-hmm. So physical fitness, mental fitness, workplace fitness. For me, these all speak to things that you can take action on as a person. And, VR has a lot of opportunities to allow you to improve, whether it be your physical state, whether it be your mental state, whether it be your productivity processes. The nature of VR and the fact that it is one step removed from what we already do every day, gives you that chance. And then, so those are my 6, right? My 6 verticals. I'm also looking at things like retail, right? But those are very, very early days on those particular platforms. So
What's retail, like shopping in VR?
Potentially, yeah. Okay. But it could be, it could be a range of things, honestly. Okay. The shopping in VR is the base, and we want to go up from there. We want to go bigger, better, faster, stronger.
Okay, so further. It's not like you're like the entry level is like a supermarket in VR, and you're like, oh, I wonder what these crisps taste like.
Right.
And and I guess that's proprietary. Shopping in space. No.
There we go.
Shopping in zero gravity. Okay, now you have a three-dimensional. It's not an aisle. It's like a hypercube or something. Yeah. Exactly.
And one of the keys to each of these verticals is the level of interactivity, right? So, as an example, I'm looking at travel as one of my spaces I'm sourcing for, and I'm looking for more than just beautiful video footage.
Yeah.
Right. I'm thinking, when I think about travel, I'm thinking about cultural immersion. I'm thinking about going to a place and being able to,
empathy.
Exactly. Develop all of those things that you get when you go to a real world place, beyond just looking, beyond just flipping through a photo album. And that's for my particular piece.
Hunter-gatherer eye view, like in the Amazon jungle.
Exactly.
Wow.
And productivity is the same way, right? I'm looking for things that take your workplace further, that take advantage of this full 6 degrees of freedom that we're developing.
Yep. Let's briefly explain 6 degrees of freedom.
Yes.
Yeah.
6 degrees of freedom is the ability to move in all directions, up, down, left, right, forward, backward, without the restriction other than, the walls that you happen to be surrounded by.
The unit knows where you are in the room that you're in, and you can walk over there, walk in the real room and in the virtual room, and the system will know. That's different from how it used to be one generation ago, one recent generation with the mobile phones, where you can just look around and you have one controller. Right. So so that's 6 degrees of freedom. So you're wanting things that take advantage of that, and not just 360 video. Yeah. And going back to our particular experience, so I'm working with the developer on this mind mapping app Noda, which we can share because we're doing a session about it. But when we wanted to demonstrate it to you, we sent you a build and invited you in, and our meeting became an actual experience in a virtual space with all three of us, there were 4 people in that, all in different cities around the world in the same shared space. It's equally as mind-blowing as Zoom would have been to someone 20 years ago, or video call would be to someone 20 years ago. And so I kind of think that there is a big opportunity. The way I explain it to people is about like developing for VR right now is like developing for the App Store in 2008 or so. It's super early days. People don't even know what to create right now.
Right.
Do you think you think it's like that?
No, I think you've nailed it. I mean, when we first started building games for mobile, right, we had a lot of experiments with regards to controls, right? Do you swipe? Do you emulate controller buttons, right? All of these experiments had to happen before we developed a common language. And now everybody, you give them a phone app, and one of the first things they do is swipe, right? Because that's now built into everybody's consciousness. We're just at the tail end of that phase for VR. We're establishing, and in many cases have established, sort of that cultural canon with things like movement through a space, and where you can expect your UI buttons, and how the controllers work, and how hand tracking is going to be working. So all these things are being established now, and they're just starting to settle out. And that's going to give us a framework that everybody can jump into any app and understand intuitively how to work within that space. So we're right, we're like right on the kickoff point for the explosion of VR. I think we've got so much stuff that's been tested and been established that we've got a solid foundation going forward. Now it's launchpad time, right? Now everybody knows sort of how to build the ability to teleport through your workspace into VR. Everybody understands how to work with room scale applications so that you can walk around in your living room. Now let's go further. Let's see where we can go next, right? That's sort of we're just, it's like we're coming over the top of the hill, and it's going to go really fast, really far, very shortly. Yep,
exactly. And it's interesting, talking about the design language and everything. It took a good 5 or more years of the mobile revolution for Google to sit down and think about how it thinks about design. It came up with material design, which is really a 2D framework for like showing different layers and that kind of thing, and how you interact with a 2D screen with touch. This is is happening in VR, and the design language is becoming consistent. It's really interesting. It's a completely different thing than anything we've generally seen in our lifetimes, because we've been on these 2D screens, whether it's a tablet now or a big screen or whatever. It's still a 2D screen. Now the user experience is 3-dimensional. What are the main kinds of tools that you're seeing people developing in? So Unity is one. Are there any other nice platforms to be aware of or enablers?
So the two big ones are Unity and Unreal. And part of it is that because of the depth of development that's been done on those platforms in games, they've got very vibrant communities. And so if you have a problem, it's very easy to find a solution. And it's very easy to find somebody who's already solved that problem, who can help inform your process going forward. It is, we see developers who come in who are developing things that are sort of Oculus native or VR native by doing custom code, by putting together their own sort of custom framework. I think it takes a little bit longer, but you can often get a more efficient result, just the same way that you do if you're developing custom code for web applications, or if you're developing custom code for game consoles, right? The trade-off really becomes where your expertise lies. If your expertise is in the design versus your expertise is in engineering. And it's, the time to platform is greatly reduced if you're using a pre-existing framework.
So the main two are Unreal and Unity. Unreal seems to be more for like photorealistic rendering and simulating reality. Unity seems to be a bit more simple. Is that a fair synopsis? Are people using using Unreal for productivity, for example, or is it overkill?
I haven't seen people using Unreal for productivity. That doesn't mean that it couldn't be done. Both, I have worked with deeply both platforms. I've worked with both platforms fairly deeply, and I think that they have very similar capabilities, but like with any applications, it's where the focus lies. Unreal really does full photoreal really well, and we see it used very heavily in games. Right. From a productivity aspect, Unreal gets used quite often in theater and cinema, and Marvel, I believe, uses VR, for example, to sort of block in their scenes and do their animatics beforehand so they can set up camera movements and all those kinds of things. So there is definitely capability within Unreal to use it for productivity. But at this moment in time, Unity seems to be faster, especially for developers who are not deeply vested in games and entertainment. Developers who are coming in from advertising or who are coming in from flat screen productivity products, seem to be gravitating more towards Unity, just with regards to time to platform and time to prototyping.
Interesting. Yeah, and both of those platforms have amazing libraries. I mean, chances are, if you can think of anything that exists in reality, that there's someone's already modeled it, and you can either download it or buy it. And that's in terms of modeling of like actual objects. But I think for me, one of the most interesting things about the potential is in abstract ideas. For example, Noda, a mind mapping software where you just have like one idea, another idea, you connect them, and then you create from those simple objects. There doesn't have to be any photorealism or amazing particle effects or anything.
Right.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's for productivity, simpler is often better, but you can't discount the effect of joy on productivity, right? There are companies out there that spend huge amounts of time making sure those interactions are satisfactory, making sure that the click sound it makes when something locks into place, or making sure that the action of a menu opening give moments of satisfaction to the users. So I think, as a foundation, absolutely you can get up and running with something like Unity right out of the gate. But it will take a little extra customization to build a product that is, that level of polish. You can't, you can prototype an app with stuff that you buy off the App Store. But in my experience, in order to make it sing and to make it people will come back to again and again, you need a little extra shine. You need to bring in like a technical artist, or you need to bring in a user experience designer to really lock in that level of polish and of satisfaction that'll make people happy to use the app.
Okay. So I'm hearing, don't forget to create joy in your work.
Yes.
for the users. Very nice. Okay, well, look, I think we've covered some really interesting ground and really powerful and useful ground. If you had to leave the audience with one big idea, what would it be?
The big idea for today is that this is a moment of opportunity. We have the tools, we have the expertise, we have corporations listening, we have everybody in the world open to a new way to work, a new paradigm for how we do all of these things. Taking advantage of that and showing the best possible use cases and the most innovative possible use cases is going to allow us to inflect where that goes. It's going to be something that allows us as the workers to help drive what work is going to look like in the future. And it's been a very, very long time since we've been able to do that. And I think it's something we absolutely should be jumping on.
Beautiful. And by the way, she's talking about virtual reality. We'll put that in the notes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing with us, Kimberly. It's been amazing. We will be looking forward to seeing the amazing things coming out of your domains. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me. This has been wonderful.